Hi everybody, it's Ros from North Mayo Fine Art. In today's video I want to show you how I draw eyes, and the drawing I'm actually using for this video is my new piece, and this is Eve. I held a giveaway on my Facebook page last week and this is the winner, and it's a lovely lady called Helen that won, and this is her beautiful little dog. So I'm going to be working on both the eyes together so you can see how I actually do them. So what I've done so far is I've put very light covering of ivory on the actual highlights of the eyes, the lightest highlights of the eyes, because the actual highlights of any eye is never pure white. There is always a colour on the highlight. It can be quite deceiving when you look at a reference photo and you see the highlights because they do look white, but they are very, very rarely pure white. So I've added just a very, very small layer of ivory onto the highlights, which they will stand out a lot more once we've got the rest of the colour on the eyes. And this highlight here is actually a combination of ivory and warm grey 3. Now for this piece, I'm only using polychromos. So I've put a light layer. I'm using a very, very light hand for this because I want to get lots of different layers of different colours onto the eyes. So I've started off with a light layer of warm grey 3. And I'm just going to finish that off around here because there is a nice light ring just around the outside edge of this eye. Now, when you're looking at an eye on a reference photo or a person's eye itself, they're never one colour. If you look at an eye that's brown, there are 5 or 6 different shades of colours in it. If you look at an eye that's blue, very often there's blues and greys and even small flecks, clear flecks in a blue eye. So don't ever think that an eye is just one shade of colour, because it's not. So I'm going to carry on with the light grey. Just finish it off around there. And then I can see that there is some brown in the eye as well on my reference photo. And the brown actually does go over the grey. So I'm going to start on this eye. And I'm going to start laying down ever so gently some of this brown. Now, I'm hardly touching the paper. I don't want to get a heavy coverage because, like I said, I want to add lots of different layers. I've got 5 different colours to add onto the eyes, so I don't want to actually burnish too soon. I'm using sharp pencils because I want to make sure that I get a really nice crisp line around the clumps of fur. I'm also going to do a video in the next day or so about how to draw fur, because that's something that I know a lot of people do struggle with. So that will be coming very soon as well. But I thought, seeing as I'm actually starting the drawing with the eyes, it's a perfect time to show you how I draw eyes. So, carry on there. Now I am going to blend these out because I want to have a really smooth effect. And because I'm only using small areas, working in a small area rather, I'm going to use one of my small colour shapers because I want the grey and the brown to blend together. Now you can see this is just the first layer, and as you can see, you can still see some of the marks of the tooth of the paper. And by blending out, that helps to move the pencil around into into the crevices of the paper. So that's the first layer done. Now don't worry about any pencil getting onto the clumps of fur, because with you having blended it, it's only a very, very minute amount of the colour. And what I do is just get my Tombow Mono eraser and just go back over with the eraser, like so. And that takes all the colour back off. So I'm now going to move on to my next layer. What I'm going to do again is add some more of this grey. And it's just going to go around the edge of the eye. I'm not going to put any into the middle. I'm using circular motions and a very, very light hand for this. I'm making sure that my lines stay nice and solid, nice and clean. Just filling in the area, like so. A little tiny bit just there as well. Now, I'm also going to add some to this bottom section here, because although it's predominantly very dark, there is a small area that is lighter, like that. So, I'm going to go back in the colour shaper. I'm going to blend that. Like so. So now I'm going to move on to a slightly darker shade, and I am going to use Burnt Umber this time. So I'm going to go where the darker area is. I'm just going to follow the line of that fur first. Again, circular motions. And this bit as well. And because I've got a really nice sharp lead, I can get into all tiny little details. So the dark also goes right the way around the edge here, but I'm leaving the lighter portion in between this colour and this little area of fur. A suggestion that I've got is when you're working on pieces like this, every time you use a colour, dust it off with a brush. Now this particular brush is actually a makeup brush, but it's very, very soft. It's ridiculously soft, which is exactly what I need for my piece, because I don't want it to be a hard brush that will then scratch the paper or will actually scratch the colour onto the paper. So this brush, as you can see, is just so soft and pliable. So it's perfect for just very, very lightly dusting the drawing. There's also a very dark area up here which will end up being almost black. But, as I've said in previous videos, in order to get a very, very rich black instead of a flat black, you need to use other colours underneath the black to give it almost a base layer to work with. So I'm going to add this brown here. And there's just a small bit that comes up there, like that. And this bit needs to be darkened up ever so slightly, like so. And this corner is very dark, right in the corner. And then it lightens up a bit. Like that. Now, I'm going to blend that out again. Like that. Now I'm going to add a slightly darker shade of the grey. I'm just going to come around here because I want the grey to be very visible. The grey will end up being the lighter portion of the eye. I know it looks quite dark at the minute, but it will end up being the lighter portion of the eye. I've still got an awful lot of work to do on the darkest areas. So, like that. So, as you can see, there's lots of different colours going into this. There's no hard and fast rule. My advice would be to look at the reference photo, to zoom in on the reference photo and to see what colours you can actually see yourself within the eye. Because not only is it the colour of the eye, it's also what's reflecting on the eye itself from the surroundings. So you can get a wonderful range of colour. So now I'm going to go in with a darker shade again. And this is now dark sepia. I'm going to start at this top area here. And I'm still only using very light pressure. I am using straighter lines now because I want to follow the curve at the top of the eye. Like so. Now I want to deepen up this area as well. Like this. Now, I have another tip, which I'm actually going to use now to show you. And my tip is, if you've got colour on an area where you don't want the colour, instead of trying to rub it off with an eraser and smudging your work, my advice is to use some of this sellotape. And I will show you now how to do it. I would also recommend that you get some sort of tool like this, which has got, it's quite a pointy end, but at the same time it's quite blunt. It's not a sharp end because you can actually damage your paper. So my advice is, if you've made a mistake or you've got colour where you don't want it, is you get your tape. Now I'm going to do this now before it gets too dark, although it can work when it's very, very dark as well. I've actually noticed that there's a bit of fur that I haven't included. So you put the tape down, you don't press it down at all. If you can see, I'm just holding the tape very, very carefully over the top. Try and get a good angle there for you to see. So you put the tape over the area. And then what you do is you actually use your tool and you very, very carefully just go over only the area that you want the colour to come off. Like so. And when you pull it up, as you can see, it's taken the colour off there. Now if you wanted to do it again, to make sure you get all the colour off, use another clean area of your tape and just go back over it, like so. And that's taken the colour off really nicely, but doesn't take the colour off anywhere else. Now, that is one of the most valuable bits of information that I can give you when you're working with coloured pencils, because it's so hard to find a way of actually getting the colour off once you put it on. So now I'm going to go back with the dark sepia. I'm actually going to darken up this little area now in between these two pieces of fur, because I want it to be a very definite shadow, like so. And I'm now going to go around this bit of fur to give it a really nice sharp edge, like that. Now I'm going to continue to add layers of colour onto the eye, and once I have got a bit more depth in it, I shall come back to you. So as you can see, I've added a lot more colour to this piece, and I'm just finishing off the final details around the actual pupil of the eye. I've got a nice depth of colour, and I've also got the nice highlights that I wanted. One point that I haven't done, I've just noticed, is I've lost just the very end of this clump of fur. There we go, bringing that back for me now, like that. So I just want to lighten this up just a touch with the light grey, like that. And I want to darken this bottom area just ever so slightly. So I've gone over adding the layers. I'm going to come in with a tiny bit of the ivory, just to brighten up that highlight just a touch, like so, and then brush that out. And I just want to add a very small bit of the highlight just there with the ivory again. And there you have it, 2 eyes. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to see any more of my work, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest and Twitter just by searching for North Mayo Fine Art. Thanks for watching.